Welcome to Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 324. Should you use an RMM? This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Our show today is brought to you by BusyBench, the all-in-one management tool simplifying IT for computer repair businesses with a clean and simple interface. Spend more time running your business instead of learning your management software. For a free 14-day trial, just go to busybench.com, use the offer code PODNUTS for 30% off the life of your account. And also by Untangle Next Generation Firewall, the best solution for bringing powerful network security to your clients in an easy to manage and cost-effective package. Untangle's partnership program helps repair shops add cybersecurity to their services and get you up and running quickly. Get started today at untangle.com/podnuts. Let me introduce the co-host. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. John, how you doing?
Barbecue happy. Glad to be here.
Oh, yeah. And also a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Paco Lebron from ProdigyTeks. Paco, how's it going?
Better than I deserve, Jeff.
Awesome. And another one who has not been around for a while, we're so glad to see him, Adam Carpenter from IT Professionals of Iowa. Adam, how are you doing?
I am doing great.
Awesome to have you. All right, we're going to start off our show with the normal segment of tips, stories, and tricks, or any of the above. John, we're going to kick it off to you because if we don't kick it off with you, you whine.
I often do. I mean, I'm paying to be here, so I feel I should be first. So, no, little quick tip. I mean, you're actually lucky to have me. You pulled me away from the grill and a little Barbie and a couple of cold ones. So here's a quick tip when you don't have the old lighter fluid to start your charcoal. And I'm not talking about you wimps that buy the charcoal that have the pre-lighter fluid either. If you don't have any lighter fluid, you know what you can do? Find a little sugar, douse your coals with some sugar, and then light them up. You may not know this, but as sugar burns, it does release a chemical that is or does start flames. So that'll help you get your charcoal started in a pinch. Now, guys, chill out a little bit. It's not lighter fluid, but it does make the process a little easier. And I also have a link in the show notes for some other quick tips for your summer barbecue. So venture on over and read the show notes as you should every week, and this will increase your summer entertainment as well.
Now I got to go outside and just try that. Just I don't even have.
You don't even have to go outside. Just dump a little sugar on the counter. I mean, your wife won't mind. Just light it right on fire right there. You'll see what happens. It's all good.
My wife already thinks I'm nuts.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate that, and glad you're enjoying the wonderful summertime we're having here in Michigan.
You know, in our business, you got to take the time when you can get the time.
That's right.
Amen.
All right, so let's go ahead and Paco, since you haven't been around for a while on this particular show, but you've been around everywhere else, all over the world, taking names, kissing babies, and just, I don't know, just hanging out. What do you have for us this week?
I guess the latest just went to a conference this past week, known as DattoCon. Pretty great setup. Pretty cool for those that can make it out. When they have a show, they really say what they are about to do. They treat their people right, make sure the audiences are good, and give a lot of great content. Just the same tip that we've kind of been preaching on is the fact that, you know, you really want to partner with a vendor that will allow you to get a buy-in specifically for um, your own MSP/IT business. And on the reverse side, you want to buy into them. And it was great to hear, you know, one of their keynotes, they were really talking about how there was a lot of complaints on the whole open mesh data networking fees, annual rates and things like that. And they talked about how they've heard the feedback and they're going to adjust that. So they've talked about lowering fees. They've talked about a lot of revamping of their product lines because, you know, there's been some argument that, you know, when they acquire stuff, they just slap their logo and call it a day. They're redoing some of their RMM products. So all in all, I think the biggest piece is just, you know, make sure to partner with a vendor that is taking that feedback, that is willing to do something about it. So I am not a Datto partner as of right now. So this is just candid feedback that I have for myself. I was had the ability to go see the show, get some ideas. But it just brings back to home of what we always talk about is make sure you partner with a vendor that cares about you, but also in the same time they know that they care about you because you care about them, and that's all that what it's about, to have a partner versus a vendor client relationship.
I like it. Very well said. All right, Mr. Adam Carpenter, what do you have for us this week?
I got a story. So, I had a customer that tried to save $100 that cost them about $1,500. So they're a break fix customer. They're mainly Macs. They're a counseling office basically. So when we started with them, they were just getting a new building built, remodeled, and there was 3 people. So we got them a printer, did everything they needed, multifunction device, real basic, because small office, small load. And then over the last couple of years, they're up to about 14 people now. Well, what they had wasn't doing their job. It wasn't handling the load that they put through it. And so they automatically wanted to blame the device. So without contacting us, they went and purchased another device for about $600. And it turns out it didn't do automatic duplexing, which they rely on daily. It also didn't do scan to email like they needed it to do. And I can understand they thought they could do it, but it's one of those I told you so moments, and we've been through it with them, but they pay every time. So if they want to pay me extra, I'll just do it, But I mean, I went in there and I had to explain to them that, well, yes, that device wasn't doing the load, but we spec'd it for 3 people, not 15. So anyway, we set up their printer. The new one didn't do what they needed, so then they had us order the right one. So now they have 2 expensive printers, and when it's all said and done, I didn't have to say I told you so. They figured it out on their own.
Oh, that's funny. Not really.
I mean, if they would have emailed or called or whatever and said, hey, this is what we need, I wouldn't have even charged them to say, hey, this is what to get. I'll come set it up, So they wouldn't have even spent the $100 they were trying to save. So, but like I said, they pay every time, so we let them do what they want. They're not a managed customer, so.
I think a lot of times it comes down to short-term thinking, and unfortunately, a lot of people, not just customers or clients, but people in general, have that short-term thinking where they think they can save themselves a little bit of either time or money. And a lot of times, instead of calling in the experts or people who would know better, they don't. I can do this. It's not that big a deal. If it was easy, if IT was easy, everybody'd be doing it. Wait, isn't everybody doing? Oh, no.
Hell, I've been doing it a long time. It must be easy.
All right. So my tip or story, or I don't know, tip and story, maybe we'll make it a Tory. Anyway, so some people will get that, some people won't. All right. So one of the things that I'm constantly trying to do is, busy as I am, or as busy as I make myself. Let me put it that way, because I'm only as busy as I want to be. One of the things I do is I try to tweak the things I do in my life as far as how do I make my life to where it's not stressful, things aren't looming over my head, and everybody's felt it, right? You've got notifications going off on your phone. Depending on the notification, most people are lazy and they just have one set up. Me, I'm weird. I set up different ones for different groups of people just because that way it's easier to figure out whether or not I want to pull it out of my pocket. But if you look at some of the things that we do on a regular basis, and this is, and I've heard this, you'll hear this all over. There's blogs on it. There's, articles and all kinds of different things. If you take your phone and you turn off all notifications on your phone, just to start, just to kind of ease the stress out of your life a little bit, just leave your phone and your text messaging notifications on. Turn everything else off. Then as you start to miss things, you'll kind of figure out what things you need to turn back on, what things are important. But a lot of times we're just kind of spray and pray, right? Turn all the notifications on and we'll figure it out later. So I'm telling everybody, do it in the opposite direction, and that can save you a lot of time. We don't think it takes a lot of time to look down at the phone. But if we looked at the amount of screen time that we actually spend on our phones, most of us would be appalled and go, where do I even have time to do anything else? So that's one of the things. The other thing I did was I'm real big on not so much on to-do lists, but calendaring everything that I want to do. So take this with a grain of salt. Everybody needs to do what they need to do for their business, whether you're full-time, part-time, somewhere in between. You got to figure out what you can do. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you think you can't take control of your life, you're right. If you think you can take control of your life, you're right. Either way, you're right. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just telling you that you can look at a couple different things to try to see if you can minimize the stress and the anxiety. And I don't care who you are, we all have it, myself included. And I can feel it. So one of the things that I would do is let's take, for example, answering emails. And I said, okay, you know what? 4 times a week. Now I can do this because this is the amount of time that it takes me to answer emails on a regular, consistent basis. I'm going to take a half hour, 4 days a week. That's when I'm going to answer emails. Now that doesn't mean, number one, I don't have notifications for my emails going off. Now, if you have customers or clients, obviously you have to have some of those notifications depending on what type of agreement you have with them. Whatever your service level agreement is, then some are going to have to be on notification. But maybe there's some that don't need to be on notification, or you can check once a day, twice a day, but take a segmented amount of time. So I would spend a long time answering emails because I answer every email that comes in, not only for the show, but for the business and other things that I do. And so what I started doing was half hour, 4 days a week. That's when I answer them. Now, when I have a spare moment or some time, and I know I've got some time, I can open up an app like my email, Facebook, etc., and I can look at those things. But I'm not constantly being dinged on my phone and being notified all the time and having to pull this thing out of my pocket and having to try to answer things on the road, which is super dangerous. Don't do it, John. It's a bad habit to get into. I've driven with you, pal. So it's one of those things that you just have to take a look at your life. And here's the thing. Take a little tweak every week and figure out if it's going to work for you or not. Now, I will tell you, I turned off all my notifications except for my phone, my text messages, and the secret Facebook group. And I noticed there was one notification I had to turn back on because I actually have a small group of close friends. I won't mention any names, John, Paco, that I wasn't getting their notifications on the device that we communicate with. So,
we know.
so I was like, oh yeah, I probably need those on so that I can, talk to them a little bit on a more timely.
I just figured we weren't friends anymore, so I called Adam.
So anyways, that's what you can do. And really, you need to take the stress out of your life because I'm going to tell you right now, there's always going to be some sort of stress. But whatever you can mitigate now is going to help you in the long run. And so that's my tip and advice and little story. All right, let's talk about one of the things we talk about every week. That's TechCon Unplugged, people. That's right. Bringing the IT community together. Join like-minded business owners for a weekend packed with resources to help your IT business thrive. I don't know, people like John Dubinsky, Paco Lebron, Adam Carpenter. They'll all be there. Myself, you got Marvin B., Mike Smith. We got a lot of different people who are going to be there, a lot of great vendors lined up, and we're really excited to put something together where we can brain dump, share together, have a great time. Walk away with concrete action items to take your business to the next level. We all need that time where we can unwind, get some new tips or tricks, and move forward in our business to make it even better than it was yesterday. It's September 20th through the 22nd, 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Right? Actually in John's backyard, almost in my backyard, and really not too far from Paco either. But it'll be a good time. Get your tickets today, $199. All inclusive. It's going to feed you Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you'll have a great time. We're going to be at Dave and Buster's on Saturday night and just sharing, hanging out, playing some games, doing whatever people like to do during these events, which for us, a lot of times is hang out and talk shop, talk life, just have fun, decompress. Go to TechConUnplugged.com. Get your tickets today. Get a hotel. The hotel rooms are $102 a night. Cheap.
Hey, I'll add to this. You know, Paco just got back from DataCon, and I mean, we'll let him talk to about to the expense of going to DataCon, but it's a little bit more expensive than TechCon. And obviously, I'm not comparing TechCon to DataCon because we're not going to have 92 vendors there and over 5,000 attendees probably.
Or Snoop Dogg going ahead and
or Snoop. Snoop's not going to be there. I mean, he called me and said he was going to try to make it, but he had to cancel. So, and I understand his reasoning, but that's all right. But my point is if you've never been to a conference and you're in the CRP group, you should really make an effort to come to this. If for no other reason, this will just give you a good option of whether you want to go to DataCon next year, because you'll learn a lot from this conference, I really feel, in my opinion. And you're going to be with a lot of great guys and gals that do exactly what you do. So that's my 2 cents.
Very good. All right. So what now?
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted. I'm reading the chat. I have 4 Audible credits. Okay, I'm going off script here a little bit. I have 4 Audible credits. So I tossed in the chat, I said, if you had 4 Audible credits and you had to use them today, what 4 books would you write? And somebody put in there, anything by Mike Michalowicz. And thank you, Adam. Anything but Mike Michalowicz. So that was really helpful. That's the kind of, that is the kind of foundational information you'll get from TechCon if you come. So you'll have a great time, I guess, is my point. Sorry, I thought I was muted. Back to you, Jeff.
All right. Awesome. All right. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about is our main topic today. And that is, should you use an RMM? Now, this came up in one of the Facebook groups, and it came from a gentleman, Brian Mac, and I'm going to probably butcher his last name, McGarvey, something like that. Anyways.
It's Brian McGarvey.
McGarvey. Okay. There we go.
Friend of the network.
Yes. Anyways, he said something about, should we be using RMMs? And because of the breaches we've had over the last couple of months, everybody's kind of freaking out. And I'm going to give my real quick 2 cents, but I want to hear what these gentlemen have to say. And that is, calm down, people, number one, because here's the thing. There's 2 types of companies in the world. Those that have been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. Those are the only 2.
All right, let me jump on the bandwagon right there before you go on, because is in my show preps, I always get some links in there. So I just put in there RMM platforms that have been hacked. And just on the first page, and if you want information on these, I have links in the show notes. Just on the first page, Continuum, SolarWinds, Ninja, TeamViewer, ConnectWise, and Kaseya all came up. Boom. On the first page of my search without any effort. So this is going to happen no matter what platform you use. I think all or some of us have used any of these platforms in the past. So just keep that in mind. Carry on, Jeff. Sorry.
No, John, and do you have anything to share with as far as what your thoughts are on, should you continue to use an RMM or should you run away scared?
Well, I think, this is one of those things, should I continue to drive or not drive? Because, there's auto accidents on the road. I don't think any one of us could do our jobs as efficiently or as appropriately, I guess, or there might be a better word to describe that without our RMM platforms. I think Paco can chime in on some recent news a little bit more because I know he was or is a WebRoot customer. But, the most recent news is Kaseya and WebRoot and maybe a couple others in the mixture there having some, some interesting, I don't want to call it a hack. I mean, it hasn't been totally washed out yet, but, all of a sudden WebRoot is coming out and enforcing 2FA that you must use it. Not that we all shouldn't be using it. But, I want to, it's not all doom and gloom. I want to go back and, pick on, if you go back and do a little research on RMM products, and I'm sure a lot of companies have done this, but like LogMeIn, company called Basecamp and others have done this, where there's a paste, when there's a dump of usernames and passwords on the account, they're actually going out and testing those usernames and passwords against their users and then forcing you to do a password reset on your next login. So, I mean, those, going back to what Paco said at the beginning of the cast, those are the kind of vendors we want to look at that maybe are more reactive or more receptive. And I'm not knocking on any of those companies in the first list. Maybe I would remove TeamViewer from that because their breach was in 2016 and they just recently admitted to it. I go back to what Jeff said, that I think it's going to happen to every product. What we want is vendors that say, oh crap, this happened. Here's what you need to do to remedy it. Here's what we've done to remedy it. Because we have to remember, I'm the pot, I'm black, I'm not calling any kettle anything, that we have to have our own house in order as well, because this could happen to us just as easily or one of our clients. So, coming around full circle, it's important that we keep things in mind from our perspective. They say the cobbler's shoes, his kids have the worst shoes, even though he's the cobbler. Is our security better than any of our clients? Because it probably should be, because we have all of their information. So, that's where I think where you really need to start. I couldn't do my job. I can't monitor or manage 800 endpoints without an RMM. So that's never going to happen. So all we can do is the best we can do. And then in the end, and I'll let the other guys jump in for some discussion, is how we prepare for when this happens.
All right. Excellent. Paco, give us your 2 cents.
Kind of chiming off of what John said, I think, once you start, I think when you're in the beginning, you can get away with not using an RMM because, similar like with you, how you're managing your finances, and it's not a joke, with through Excel spreadsheet, you can still manage that until, if you grew past that where you can't keep some of the numbers straight or anything like that, you're going to be forced to make a decision to help make your time a lot better, easier, and it's not a pain in the butt to try and figure out what to do. It's the same case here. For those that are, maybe only have 20 endpoints and 15 endpoints, maybe they don't need an RMM right now. Maybe they need something that will, remote software like Screen Connect or Log Me In that kind of has all their endpoints there, and they have some quasi features in there to help patch and things like that, or going to an antivirus like F-Secure or something like that that has some additional things built into there. You can get away with that, right? But the time you need an RMM is when you really want to try and figure out how to get better at on making things more automated, making things more easier for yourself, as far as time is concerned. Patching 100 machines is probably going to be a lot easier to run a script than it is to go into each individual machine one by one, depending on your RMM, if they've got their patching in order. There are times where, you can't monitor Windows Defender on X amount of machines. So you need a software that can do that for you. And usually there are some RMMs that can handle that type of thing. So I think it's just all about one size. Two, it's a matter of figuring out where you want to scale, because maybe, for the same price, you can help build a foundation for yourself so that you can scale when it's needed. Now, don't mistake that for get all the nice shiny tools and hope the customers will come. That's not what I'm trying to say. I mean, if it's well in your realm of being able to invest in certain tools or investing in ability of getting an RMM that'll help make your job easier, and it is at a good price point, regardless if you use it or not, you're doing yourself a good service by helping yourself get a foundation to then scale as depending on where you want to take your business, whether it be staying part-time, going into it full-time, and having this be your daily driver.
Excellent points. Adam, your 2 cents.
Well, you guys pretty much covered what I was going to say. I mean, we're all pretty much on the same page, which is kind of a given. But what I'll say is the simple answer to the question is yes, you need an RMM to run your business. There's no way to efficiently scale without it. And besides that, if we stopped using every product that hacked or breached or whatever, you couldn't use Adobe, you couldn't use Marriott, you couldn't use, the list goes on forever. I mean, it is what it is. We just have to rely on our vendors to react quickly. They have much larger teams than most of us to work on these things. So I agree that it's best to put it back on them, find one you trust, and hopefully they're responsive when things do happen. If you don't like the way your vendor handles things or reacts, there's plenty of other options out there. So don't think you're married to one.
But with that being said, I think that sometimes people look at they're going to see a breach and they're going to jump to another one that's going to get breached, and then they're going to jump to another one that's going to get breached.
Right. Yeah. It's never going to be something that doesn't happen. It's always going to be a risk no matter where you're at. So that's why you really, don't jump ship immediately. Pay attention, see, how the response is. We've all seen from different vendors, some do it well, some don't do it well at all. So, I mean, you're going to have to kind of choose that on your own. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't make any business decision on a whim.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think Adam brought up a good point, about some vendors do it well, some don't. Keep in mind that you're going to have a response as well. Meaning that if your RMM gets hacked and all of a sudden your endpoints are quote unquote infected or something weird happens, what are you going to do? What's your response? You just can't wait on the vendor. You're going to have a response for your customers as well.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 sometimes in this business. Is we try to make things easier on ourselves. We're going to use cloud-based tools and all these things that are on the intranet, which is a pile of sludge and chaos. It's just part of what we do. And, some days are going to be better than others. I mean, nobody wants this to happen. But let's talk about maybe some of the things that from our level that we can do to mitigate these things being taken over like they have been in the last couple of months. We've heard of these RMMs getting taken over and infecting customers' computers with ransomware and basically locking all their files up. I mean, John, I know you would probably, I don't know what you would do if all 800 of your endpoints got infected with some sort of ransomware.
Before or after I get out of the fetal position?
I'm gonna say been moved.
Retire, maybe Barbados. I've always thought Barbados would be a nice place to visit again. I don't know. Well, I think let's pump the brakes and just talk about the basics. Obviously, it's everything we've always talked about. Good security at the basic level, email, password, 2FA to get in there. This topic actually brought up, I've used a plethora of RMM platforms in my day. So my thought was more of, okay, somebody does get in. Now what can somebody do now that they're in there? Does your RMM platform allow you to immediately click on a link to remote into another PC without any other sort of authentication? Can everybody on every username or password run scripts, one-to-many scripts or something like that? What can you do to minimize the scope of what a bad guy or a bad actor may have, whether that is an outsider or maybe even an employee? Things you have to think about are former employees. Are you cleaning up your usernames and passwords in your own RMM or PSA platform, cleaning those up? And then you got to remember, it's the exact same things that we fight about with our customers. Are your employees, or are you using the same username and password that you're using with your RMM on other sites? Are your employees doing that, your techs? Some PSAs, some RMM platforms allow your clients to log in. Are you enforcing some sort of 2FA with that, even though that it's probably a PETA on their end? I mean, if something bad happens, they're still going to call you, even though it's not your fault. So, I would say the only way to, totally move on and secure this even more is to create more discomfort. Obviously, more security, more discomfort. So I think we need to add more layers of discomfort, not only for us, but for anybody else that might access the system.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think when I was at one of the sessions, they were talking about, do you have convenience or security? You can't have both. So if you want something more convenient, just know that you're not going to have the security in place. If you want more security, then it's not going to be convenient. And there are other ways around to do that too. So, they were mentioning even now that sometimes even 2FA is not even the greatest, because you can just copy the cookie that's of the session in the browser if someone was savvy enough, and launch that same session that two-factor actually authenticated, which is why the UB keys are kind of the good go-to nowadays. So, you got to just figure that out, for convenience and security. You can't have both.
Well, I look at it like this too, Paco, is that you have to look at the low-hanging fruit. In other words, and I know, I saw the sessions with Kevin Michnick and all the things that he does, and let's be honest. I mean, infections, hacking, a lot of that stuff. We've talked about companies getting hacked. A lot of times it's been on-prem, which means somebody actually had to have physical access to a physical computer. They didn't just get on the internet and just magically hack in. Number two is going to be email. It's some XYZ company gets a link. They click on the link. Something bad happens. It compromises, whatever. And number three is going to be social engineering. It's very easy in a conversation to get information from a person that you could probably, from a normal person, that you could probably gather enough information to figure out their passwords and different things that they do. But if you're only going to have a password, and a password's, I don't know, 8 characters, let's say, and it's maybe easily more crackable than a 32-character password, then, that's, again, it's like you said earlier, it's that convenience versus security. So I think that's one of the things to think about when you're looking at how do you protect yourself. You've got to go through some sort of steps in order to protect yourself from the bad guys out there. And like John said, what are you doing?
We talked about this a little bit with our cybersecurity discussion last week, that we all have to start at the base level, meaning get your ducks in a row on the base level. You should have some sort of inventory, hardware and software. You got to have some basic AV. You got to have a decent firewall. Just get your basics in level, your patching, your Windows patching, your third-party patching, and that's going to knock down a good 80%, in my opinion. If you just get the basics done, then start layering on everything else. I mean, 2FA, everything. I mean, 2FA should be in that basic stack. I retract that statement. But get all your basics done. You get to that 80% level, and then move on. Keep adding these other layers. Right to what Paco said. It removes the convenience, but it adds to security. And that's where you then get into discussions with your clients. Here's the expense, or here's the inconvenience, or here's whatever is happening, that they're going to do. I mean, I'm offering this to you because, one, you probably should have it, or maybe you're required by law with compliance to have it. What do you want to do? You make the decision. But just keep in mind that I offered this to you. I suggest you had it. If bad things happen, we'll go back to Adam, and we'll pull out the "I told you so" card. And, so just make sure you're communicating and build that stack, and get the basics done first. Get your house in order, get your shoes nice, as the cobbler said, and then move on.
So I got a couple things to add to that. For the "I told you so" scenario, we're at the point where we have a form that clients have to sign if they don't go with our backup, flat out. You either go with what we recommend that we manage and monitor and take responsibility for, or you are on your own. And here's the proof that you signed. Granted, it's still going to be a pain. You're still going to have a fight, and it's still going to be an issue, but at least you have something to stand on. And also, you guys know I'm not one to hold back on acronyms. So EDR would be great for for this type of situation. Basically, the new type of antivirus, I guess we'll say, endpoint detection and response. So your products like Sentinel-1, for example, which we're trying out. So what that will help with is detecting, like if PS exec is running, and for privilege escalation and network traversal, so if things are spreading across the network, these more advanced products are starting to detect those things based on machine learning and that kind of thing. So that can really help with this type of situation over your traditional AV.
And let's look at some of these companies and their products and services, and even from a Windows standpoint, when you're looking at updates, what most of the time are updates doing? Updates are usually plugging holes, sometimes fixing problems. Well, I believe it's the same thing for anybody that's using any type of service out there. Why are they doing updates? And should they be doing updates? Well, they probably should be doing updates all the time. But at the same time, the more updates you do, the more code you involve, the more maybe bad things that you could have that are open out there. So you're constantly playing this game. Oh, we didn't see that. Let's go ahead and patch for that. Let's take so I think it's an ever moving target that just doesn't stop.
Absolutely. I mean,
All right.
because you have the bad guys out there that are finding stuff that the developers didn't know were there anyway. So you're always going to be chasing that rabbit.
So I think what we've come to the conclusion is it's never going away. All right, let's take a quick break and we will come back shortly talking about this great topic. Our show today is brought to you by a Busy Bench. Remember when running your business was very simple? Busy Bench sure does. Wouldn't it be nice to quickly create a repair ticket, generate an invoice with a single click, and manage thousands of customers completely free of charge? Busy Bench thinks you will enjoy adding an unlimited number of customers, invoices, estimates, and inventory items so much. You might forget that we have paid for features too. But don't worry, when your business grows and you need things like SLA alerts, payment processing, and recurring subscriptions, Busy Bench will be there with you every step of the way. Turn a ticket into an invoice with a single click. If you added inventory items to a ticket, they will be added to the invoice as well. Saves you from another click. The new invoicing module allows you to track when a customer opens an invoice and determines when it was viewed. Additionally, customers can pay that same invoice online. We like to know when our customers are opening our invoices so they can pay on time. Manage your assets with predefined metrics and customization options. Easily track everything from customer serial numbers to login passwords and device details from a single location. Receive daily digest recapping all of your activities, such as tickets created, invoices generated, and payments received. Go to busybench.com and start your free account today. When you decide to upgrade, use the offer code PODNUTS for 30% off the life of your account. All right, so getting back into, should you use an RMM? I think we've come to the conclusion that depending on the size of your business, depending on how many client and end users you're taking care of, you probably are going to have an RMM. And unless you plan on never growing your business, you're probably at some point going to need to think of an RMM to use. And so I don't think that part of it's going away. I don't think it's any different than backup, right? If you're going to use a backup service, are all backup services infallible? Is that even a word? No, I think they're all fallible. And that means any one of them can be compromised. Now, hopefully they're doing the right things to try to, they're obviously spreading your information across different server farms, which makes sense. Again, it's the same reason we do backups for our customers, so that if and when a breach happens, we've got a backup to go to. And that's really what we need, in place. That's our Hail Mary, that's our backup plan to make sure, no pun intended, to make sure that they get their data and stuff back when something bad happens. So anyways,
I got a question on, we're talking about all this, and this kind of goes off our RMM topic, and I'm kind of asking this because Adam's here too, and obviously I value his opinion and everybody in the chat. No, everybody. I'm just all inclusive. Namaste. Anyways, Paco and I have been punching each other in the face literally about this and all that. Sentinel-1, Silence, all this next generation AV and all that kind of stuff. And, there's things like Huntress and Rocket Cyber and blah, 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 blah. So, my whole thing is a lot of guys use WebRoot. And if I roll back to the beginning, you look at AV comparatives and AV test. I know you got to pay to be there, but obviously those companies aren't going to do it for free. But, there's just a lot of products that you don't see in there, and none of the next generation AV products are in there. And I haven't been able to find, and maybe somebody can correct me, I haven't been able to find any metrics on any of the new next gen AVs as far as here's a third party, paid or not, that's tested them so that they score similarly or not to other AV products with their EDR solutions. Like Bitdefender has an EDR solution, and it's in the loop. I just find it kind of odd that you don't see any WebRoot test comparatives. You don't see any Silence. You don't see any Sentinel-1 by just a third party.
I think the reason for that is they work much differently. Their core functions are different than your standard AV. Nobody's come
get
out with
that.
a test for that yet. Is the problem? But yeah, I haven't
Okay.
seen a comparison for those either.
And I don't think it's a fair comparison to say, okay, here's standard Bitdefender AV and here's Sentinel-1. I get that.
Right.
And then I also know with Silence and Sentinel-1 with that next gen, a lot of the next gen stuff is beyond the AV with the rollback functionality, the detection, and all that rich, I'll call it slick, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I mean that in a really cool way and all that. But, I always wonder, just from the basic aspect, that just one, are they at least doing what my AV is doing? Or, maybe a better answer was that is maybe Sentinel-1, and granted, I haven't done a demo yet, interacts with Windows Defender, so I could just leave Windows Defender on the PCs too. So you kind of, how that works.
So right now we're running it side by side with Bitdefender, and we've only had it for a couple days now. They tell you straight out, because the problem is you talk to most vendors and they say, oh, we don't have false positives. That's not an issue. With the way this works, they tell you run it side by side, leave it in monitor mode for a week or more, depending on your environment. Figure out what's going to be triggered and what isn't. It's easy to do exclusions and things like that. You can run it side by side, though it's going to be quite costly to do that. But once you get it configured how you want, I think you'd be fine with just this. Granted, we're early in the testing stages, though.
It sounds like the same thing with like rolling out Zorus or any decent UTM. You always get a lot of false positives at the beginning, or even with DNS filtering. So I can understand that. Okay. I always get the thing, there's a whole lot of marketing hype with all of these companies. If I'm going to spend the time to implement and do all that kind of stuff, is it really doing anything? I just like somebody to say, I digress.
No, I'm in agreement with you, John, because I'm just interested in, again, don't tell me what it may or may not do in a testing environment, right? I want to use it in a real world scenario with real people who may or may not go out there and do nefarious things like, I don't know, click links in emails and go to nefarious websites and all that kind of stuff and get some sort of infection. What's it going to do? Obviously, we want progression of these services to become better, because that's just it. But it's constantly chasing this thing that's never going to stop. In other words, you make a better mousetrap, a smarter mouse comes out and figures out how to get around it. It's just kind of the way it works. Paco, I want to hear your 2 cents on, since you and John were punching each other in the face over this, what's your consensus on that?
See, I'm going to interrupt again. Paco's response is perfect. We've been friendly punching each other in the face. Just, like.
Yeah, it's
just a bunch of marketing hooey. Because if you watch the Windows Defender ad, their YouTube video on their product, and then you watch the Sentinel-1 ad, if you just swap the name, the company names, it's the exact same video. Next gen, blah. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of features in Sentinel-1 with the rollback and all that are awesome. And I digress, Paco. Carry on.
Yeah, like I said, the marketing hoo-ah, that's beyond me. We got to ask Liz about that. But as far as the friendly punching in the face and all that sort of deal, it's, all I can say is that people are talking about them, these products, Sentinel-1, Silence, Bitdefender, WebRoot not doing what it needs to be doing according to some forums and things like that, on their version of 2FA and whatever the case may be. All in all, as an IT business owner, it's on you to decide if your solution makes sense. And are you comfortable to say that the value you're bringing to your customer makes sense? So for me, I just, developed this relationship with PAX 8, and PAX 8 has a lot of great partnerships with a lot of vendors, and Sentinel-1 just happens to be one of them. I also use the Synchro RMM and PSA tools, which has Bitdefender as their AV that could be rolled out fairly easily. So the thing that me and John always talk about is not so much on, does this tool does what it needs to do? It's a matter of what stack can you provide that won't be costly, not in a monetary aspect, but on a time aspect, transitioning, learning, demoing, understanding. You know, the last thing you want to happen is you get caught with your pants down, and it's because of some situation that one of these vendors did something, or you didn't configure something properly. That's kind of where I stand with that. So I've been trying out Sentinel-1 as well for the last couple of weeks. I like what it does. But, you know, from certain conversations, does it make sense to just do, you know, a simple AV and throw on something like Huntress and Rocket Cyber, or somebody of that type of situation? I think the acronym used was MDR, which don't ask me what it stands for because I wasn't paying attention. But, you know, it's one of those where, you know, do you do a complex solution like that? Or because now that's 2 layers, do you go into something like a Sentinel-1 that can take advantage of that? Or is it the wrong conversation and we put in something like Azorus or clean browsing? Like, again, it's all about the stack that you're trying to provide. And as far as my opinion, I don't have one, because it's one of those where I'm trying it out and figuring out what's going to be best for my managed service providing business.
And I think that's a very good point, because you should be trying these products out. And we recommend this all the time. Is a lot of times there's trials and different things you can do and use this stuff in your own business. So I would recommend for people to go out there and go and try these different things and figure out how it's going to work, but try to use it in a real world scenario. I remember back in the day, I would download the latest, greatest product and I put it on my bench computer. Well, the only time I really get on my bench computer is when I'm doing something for a customer's computer. So it's not a daily driver. It's not being used for anything every day. What I should have done is take my laptop, throwing that on there, see what it does, and figure that out. I don't throw any of this crap on my desktop, just because it caught, in my in my opinion, with all the different things that I do, it will cause me more heartache than it is worth. And I already know that up front. But to throw it on my laptop wouldn't be anything, because I use that all the time when I'm out of the house. So I could use it in a real world scenario and see how it works. Oh, any other thoughts on? I mean, we could go many different directions with this. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot of products out there. And I guess the other thing I'll say is that if you're going to have multiple products in order to protect yourself, especially software wise, I understand having, some sort of UTM, some sort of basic firewall, all these different things in your stack. But the reality is you could have, and I think somebody mentioned in the chat room, you could have one wrong configuration on something, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, we just left that hole open because we really didn't know our product, but we're just going to throw a bunch of products at it to figure out it should cover all the holes. Well, that's not always been the case. And it's hard to get things to work with Windows on a consistent basis. I can't imagine getting Windows and other products to work together on a regular basis. And the other thing too is, I think a lot of these products will come out and they say, they're a side by side. They're, we're going to be used with your antivirus. Every one of them tries to take the position where they go, you don't need antivirus. We've got everything built into our stack right here. That's all you need. And from my opinion, what I've seen in the past, that is never the case. It's nice. It's a pie in the sky dream, but it's not a reality. So, again, marketing hooey or whatever you want to call it. Again, I feel that new products need to advance, and I think they're going to, but I think we need to figure out where they're at. And then what are they doing to compromise us, between us and the clients? Are we doing everything we possibly can to keep ourselves safe so that we can keep our client base safe, whether you're using RMM, AV, whatever it is? I mean, these are all kind of all-inclusive products that we're using to support our client base.
Well, and I think you just brought up a great word there, Jeff, client. I mean, remember, if you're going to change these things and all that, you're going to get client fatigue. And also keep in mind, if you implement something that blocks everything, and causes a lot of havoc in the office, then you're going to get client fatigue with that. No matter the benefit, they're not going to understand that, or most of them will not understand that. Even though if you can have a little conversation with them that says, hey, we just have to get through this painful period to whitelist what you need, or Adam mentioned a lot of these products have a monitoring mode where you can go in and kind of monitor what's going to be blocked and pre-whitelist or preordain this kind of stuff before you roll out the product. Just keep in mind that, the tighter we tighten the wrench, just like Paco said, convenience is going to go down and your clients might get fatigued or even pissed off a little bit about that.
Yeah, that definitely is a worry. But I mean, how do you deal with that when we know that things in our business that we're using, the tools that we're using, are not subject to, they're not perfect? How do you how do you let the client know that the things that we're not using aren't perfect, or we just not say anything until something happens? I mean, I guess we have to set up some sort of expectation for the client base that we have, or we
So
just kind of,
we have something in our contract that says that we'll do our best to make sure everything is running perfectly at all times. However, we cannot guarantee that one vendor will not cause an issue, or I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but we're at the mercy of the vendors and their software, basically. So we'll do our best and we'll work with you and we'll fix whatever we need to. However, there may be a time where something comes up and that needs to be understood.
That's good. I like that. Paco, you getting any pushback out from people, in your business?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that going on, and it's one of those where, again, evaluating the stack and trying to figure out which way you want to go. The best thing I could say is, and I forgot where I heard this, was the fact of every business owner believes that we're the hero, and that's not the case. They're the hero of their own business. We're simply just a guide. We're the guy helping them get through what they need to do for their IT needs and whatever. The moment they understand that we can only guide them on what they need to do versus, hey, this is what you need to do, the conversation ends up being a little bit better, setting those expectations. Like, I have a client right now where it seems like it's a lot of constant little small issues, but they're all software or vendor issues. Teams is not working like I used to have it with Skype, or I have my email for some reason is, all three clients all of a sudden out of nowhere, email's working great on Outlook, but my Outlook app on my phone is not working properly. So it's like, yeah, okay, well, there's nothing. I mean, OWA is working, everything's good. I haven't done anything. So, it's those little things that end up happening, and that creates the customer fatigue, the customer frustration that you're not doing what you need to be doing when, you have to figure out on the way of, look, I can guide you, I can help you with what you need, but if Microsoft tells me, hey, that's just not how Teams works right now, it's not my fault. Don't get in a bunch for something that I didn't have any control over. And that's where, again, it comes into the guidance. All right, you can't just give them that reply with that response. You got to have a solution for them, because then you're just no better than anybody else complaining about something, right? So that's when you have, look, we can do a 1, 2, 3 and figure out what those options work for them, and allow them to believe that they're in control and help alleviate some of that fatigue and frustration.
That's good. I like that. All right. Any other thoughts on this as far as what things we can? I mean, obviously, we've talked about the safeguards we need to put in place. Is there anything else anybody can think of at this point where we can do something to better off our customers as far as the tools and stuff that we're using to help them, like Paco said, kind of guide them? Paco, that was very Zen-like, by the way. But it's a good way of thinking about it differently, right? And it's I think that's a lot of times that's the problem with us in general. We want to be the IT hero, and partially because it makes us feel good. And I get that. But there comes a time where you have to take common sense by the and basically go, listen, this is common sense. This is what we're going to do. This is what is normal. We're not going to sit there we're not going to jump in front of a train to save you. It's just not going to happen. We're going to do our best to sit there and give you direction on what you need to do. And we're going to do our best to keep you as safe as possible. But when bad things happen, all we can promise is that we will help mitigate the problem, whether that's restoring your backups, getting them back up online, whatever that might be. That's our job.
Yeah, I think
Right.
something I had talked about on the last show of mine is, a lot of these bad situations that come up, you should not, their frustration and their business being affected should not be a reflection of your ability to help them. And a lot of us tend to internalize that and take it personally on, damn, am I doing what needs to be done? Am I really in the right field? And you start doing that self-doubt. It's to understand that you have to make sure that that should not be a reflection on what you're doing, as because you're doing the best you can to provide that support. And that's what you both went into in that quote unquote relationship of supporting their business.
And to put it another way, we can't guarantee a hurricane, a fire, a flood, any of those things aren't going to happen, but we're going to be there to put the pieces back together when that time comes.
It's one of those things that, and I say this often, I say this in a lot of things I do, and it's actually a true statement. I'd rather be lucky than good any day of the week. There is a lot, and you take that any way you want, but there are a lot of things that there are things that I fix that people go, hey, how'd you fix that? I sit there and look at them and go, I have no earthly idea. I really don't. It just, yeah, I did this, that, and the other. And the end result was I got it fixed. What fixed it? Don't know. And so a lot of times people don't realize that, but that's in any industry. That's in anything that you do. I'll give you a real world example from today. I walked up, they had a clamp, a air clamp that was out of position. And they were like, hey, this is sitting too far back. How do we adjust this forward? And I'd come up on it and I'm like going, I have never seen that clamp cylinder combination before. And it was a big one. I was like, wow, I'm not sure where the adjustments are. It's different than anything else I've worked on ever. And so I sat there and looked at it, kind of made a couple assumptions and said, yeah, this might actually adjust the end stop. Let's see. And I made an adjustment. Sure enough, that fixed the problem. Had it fixed in like 5 minutes. And they were like, "Oh, cool. We're back up and running. No big deal." And I'm like going, I walked up on that job, had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but I just took time, looked at it, and made an educated guess, and it worked out. So, and we can all say that. We all have done that in our lives for forever. So, anyways. All right, let's take another quick break. Guys, gather your thoughts and any lasting thoughts we want to talk about this subject, and then we'll move on from there. Our show today is brought to you by Untangle Next Generation Firewall, designed to provide your small to medium business customers with the easiest, most cost-effective solution for network security. Untangle is the fastest way to add cybersecurity to your service offerings. We've taken enterprise-grade security and put it into a platform that makes it easy to get started risk-free. There's no steep learning curve with Untangle, thank God. Instead, you'll get a browser-based dashboard that lets you see the status of your managed networks at a glance. You enjoy on-the-box reporting included at no extra cost. Plus, customizable alerts that integrates easily with apps like PagerDuty and VictorOps, making it simple to stay on top of any incidents that do occur. Untangle NG Firewall not only protects your clients with gateway antivirus, spam blocking, and intrusion prevention, but also gives you full control over traffic at the application level with the web content filtering, app control, and full SSL inspection. You'll also get WAN optimization features like balancing, failover, and bandwidth control. Whether you need VPN options or a captive portal for secure Wi-Fi, Untangle NG Firewall has everything you want in a single solution. With lots of freebies like centralized management with zero-touch provisioning and a cloud threat intelligence scan for a second layer of defense included at no extra cost. There's no better choice than Untangle for getting visibility into and control over network traffic, helping your clients safely connect to the internet for their business-critical applications. Visit untangle.com/podnuts today to get a free no obligation trial of NG Firewall and save 15% on any purchase with the promo code PodNuts. All right. Let's start off with John. I'm going to start with you again. What are your final thoughts on should you use an RMM?
Yes, embrace, caress, hug your RMM. I mean, you can't do your job without it. I think you need to have one after you get to a certain point of endpoints, a certain amount of endpoints. There's just too much to do that you can't do without automation anymore. And then just stick to the basics. Nail down those basics and say a couple prayers at night before you go to bed, and life should be good.
Awesome. All right, Paco, what say you?
Yes, you should use a remote monitoring or remote management monitoring software.
Monitoring management.
Sure, whatever.
You're not going to stop just because of the couple of articles that came out or the breaches that have happened over the last couple months, right?
Nope, because mine hasn't been hacked yet, so I'm good.
Oh, it didn't.
I just saw a post. You're next on the list.
Yet. Yeah, there you go. No, it happens.
No,
but yeah, I think somebody.
Like you said, I mean, I was with Ninja when Ninja had theirs. It's not going to cause any of those issues. So I'm going to keep on trucking and go from there.
The other thing I will say before Adam pipes in, I think that being made aware of what's going on out there is actually a good thing. Everybody looks at it, man. It's like the naysayers out there are like, oh, it's happened again. Somebody's been hacked. Like, this is like freaking news. Are you kidding me? No, it's not, people. It's just life, day after day after day. If you think about it like that, you'll sleep much better at night. That's all I'm saying. All right, Adam, what say you?
Yes, you need one. If you keep jumping ship every time something happens, you're going to be out of tools pretty soon.
It's a good point. There's only so many tools to go around, right?
Right.
Or you'll have no hair, one of the two. Oh, no.
Too late for you.
Oh, there it goes. All right, Adam, real quick. How many RMM solutions have you used thus far in your career?
2.
John.
Hang on. Let me count. 1, 2. Oh, probably 5.
Oh, you didn't have to count that. Paco.
2.
Okay. And 2. 2 for me. So, John, you're not really that far ahead of,
Yeah, everybody just likes to give me beep about it. So I'm happy to play the game. We'll be going out behind the woodshed at TechCon for anybody that really wants to get into it.
Behind Dave and Buster's.
Okay.
Maybe they'll have one of those, large Rock'em Sock'em robot things so you can have a battle royale.
I'm tired already, Jeff. I'm tired already.
It's been a long time since I've been to Dave and Buster's, so I'm pretty sure they have probably some pretty cool things. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk real quickly. We have one email we're going to answer here in a minute, but I would like to throw out something else. If you would like to support this show and what we're doing, I encourage you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support. We appreciate what you are doing. And what that does is that gets you for about $1 a show, anywhere from $2 to $5 a month. That'll basically give you access into the secret Facebook group where you can answer questions. Yes, you can answer them. You can also ask them in a nice, safe environment where people won't beat you up for asking a dumb question. And everybody is predominantly nice. If not, then I have Paco and John, and they'll just boot you on out of there. So go over to patreon.com/computer repair podcast and sign up today. All right. I've got one email, and let's get through this. So it says, love the podcast, gentlemen. It is a great resource. Was there one sentence or word as you look back that helped you get your foot in the door? Or is there any resource that you could recommend? Any suggestions would be appreciated. I am doing research, meeting people, growing by word of mouth. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate any suggestions that you might have. Thank you, Paul Hornbogen. Thank you, Paul, for that email. Appreciate that. So was there ever something that you came up with? Maybe some sort of marketing word, sentence that you could basically get in the door with a customer. What types of things did you do?
So one thing I like to say, once we've got a break fix call for a new customer come in, is, by the way, we have a solution for this. And that line right there works pretty well. We can prevent this from happening again. Here's how.
That's good. John, Paco, either?
Give me your money.
Give me your money.
No, I mean, there's no real phrase, I guess, that I could say as far as on a script or how to get my foot in the door. It's just more on a personality basis. Just opening up the conversation of understanding their needs and identifying what you can offer to address those needs. You don't want to spray it all to them on what you offer. Just attack the little things that they've talked about in that avenue, and then you can hopefully scale and grow it as you develop your relationship with that customer.
Okay. John?
I digress.
Digress.
I haven't figured that out. I've only been doing this a couple of years.
Well, yeah, but John, for me, when you start, okay, so I think what I'm hearing everybody say, and this is what I've always firmly believed, when you're first starting off in this business, you're going out there and you're fixing one problem. Now, it might turn into a plethora of problems, but it usually starts with one. Printer's not working. My Windows machine won't boot up. My server's down. I can't get on the internet. Whatever that one problem is, you go in, you fix that problem. And then, like Adam said, you said, hey, I've got a solution that we can take care of and monitor this stuff all the time so we can mitigate when you do go down. We can get you back up running that much quicker. Would that be something you're interested in? And I think that's really what it comes down to. And I think a lot of people forget that. So once you get to a certain point, like John, where you're at in your business, and you basically, let's say you've been doing dental offices for a while, and one dentist talks to another dentist. And so that's kind of that word of mouth marketing that kind of passes you along. But in the beginning, you were probably fixing a problem and then came up with a solution later to tell them how they could, mitigate that over time. So I think that's what, a lot of people, and that's why I kind of have a problem with people going, oh, I want to break from break fix to managed services. Well, there really is no breaking in from one to the other. It's the same thing. It's just a slightly different way of doing it. So again, come in and fix a problem and, offer other.
I mean, I'm a
services.
horrible salesperson, and I have been my entire career. So what I try to focus on, and not that I couldn't be a salesperson, it's just I have no interest in being a salesperson.
I'm
So
with you.
my focus is on confidence and just integrity. So I attack the problem. I try to be as apt to, or moving forward on the service approach as fast and as rapidly as I can. I try to be friendly and just move with confidence and integrity on the situation, and that really has been my sales approach.
At the end of the day, we're providing peace of mind that we got you covered.
Right. Paco, thoughts?
What they said.
Come on, I know you got some wisdom out there. Things you've been doing in your business, and
I mean, it's one of those where, for me, I think that there are different avenues of a computer business. The phrases of what they're called, it's all an IT business in general. Some identify as MSP, some identify as VARs, some identify for all these other things, and it's going to be the next new acronym that comes out for what we want to be, right? You just follow what you're good at, and that will show to your customers. I know there was a period that I was advertising on that we were doing cybersecurity services, and I stepped away from that verbiage and basically shifted the view of the business to being just your go-to IT company. And the negative selling didn't help as much before. Switching over to this more friendlier, I've seen a big adjustment, and that's just because to my personality. Now, there was one point that I used to hate salespeople and I used to hate sales. But as an IT business owner, if you do want to grow and you do want to scale, you have to find your form of selling that works best for you. Because, like you've said many, many times before, we're always selling in one way, shape, or form. So whether that's to your significant other, to you being able to just provide a conversation of what's that next good restaurant or that next tool. It's all about honesty, integrity, and figuring out what you want to do for your business. And if you do want to scale, there is some sales involved, and it could be as simple as just talking to someone and them giving you their business card because they want to do business with you because you're just their type of guy or gal.
Yep, I agree with you. It's just offering them something. Here's, I'm offering you a way to do something. You can choose to take it or not take it. Doesn't really matter. And I think that's where, if you don't get bound up in the process of trying to make sure that you make that sale, and you're just offering something, whether they want to take it or not, doesn't really matter. It's to their benefit, and they'll figure it out one way or another. But really, that's the bottom line. All right, let's go ahead, and I think we're going to get on out of here. So, Adam, I want to shout it out to you and let everybody know where they can get in contact with you, find out more about you, and maybe hang out with you. I don't know.
Well, I'll be at TechCon Unplugged. I'm in the CRP Facebook group. You can call me at 319-227-7000, or you can email me at support@itproiowa.com.
He must have had that rehearsed. That's good. All right, Paco, what about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me. Yeah, it's kind of hard nowadays. You can find me over at Tech Life over on the Podnuts Network. Computer Business Marketing Show should return soon. Me and Matthew Rodella, my co-host over at Tech Site Builder, they're working on a couple things. He's got some big announcements going on with the platform, so he's kind of dealing with some of that first before coming back to the show. So we should be coming back soon, and possibly a Marketing Monday if Elizabeth Vanover pulls me into some of those. So we'll kind of see where that goes from there, because she's in the chat hassling me about I sure did hate salespeople, which is a conversation we'll have at TechCon on what that's about.
Awesome. All right, John, where can people find you?
I look forward to seeing everybody in the CRP group.
All right, cool. All right, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnuts.com/CRP live. You can join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. You can also send an email to podnuts@podnuts.com or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.